Hello friends, it's Greg here on the Blue Feather Ephemera channel. I have an eBay store also called Blue Feather Ephemera, and in my weekly videos I show you what's sold, and then we also cover a bonus topic. This past week I sold 25 items for $332.98. We'll take a look at those, and then we'll cover this week's bonus topic, my SKU system. In that part of the video, I'll show you how I keep track of things here at the Blue Feather Cottage. But first, let's look at 25 great examples of vintage print advertising. To start the show today, we're going to look at 8 advertisements that sold in a promotion that I'm running in the store. A customer can get 20% off of the purchase of 2 or more advertisements. I had 2 customers that bought 2. I also had 1 customer that bought 4. Here's the first one for BC powder. It relieves headaches, neuralgia, and muscular pains. This is from Life magazine, 1945, and just looking at some detail, it's a small ad, measures 3 inches by 7, $8.77. Sent this first ad to Colorado. The second ad to that buyer is this one here for the New Orleans famous French Market coffee and chicory. It's a small ad. It's almost what I'd call minuscule. Here, looking at the dimensions, it measures only 1 inches by not even 3 inches, but that buyer wanted it for $6.77, 20% off. It ran in Life magazine, 1954. Next up is a pair of ads from Road and Track magazine, 1956. This is for Judson Research and Manufacturing Company out of Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. This is not a full page ad. It measures about 6 inches by 8.5, 5.5 by 8.5, or something like that. But both of these ads are for Volkswagen superchargers. And in the 50s, Volkswagens were flooding into the country, and people were trying to get all the performance they could out of them by modifying them a little bit, because as an old supervisor of mine once said, a Volkswagen wouldn't pull a sick hen off the roost. So they needed a little bit of pep and a little bit of help. $12.77 for this one. $18.77 is the price of this next ad to that same buyer, also Judson Research and Manufacturing Company of Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. This also ran in Road and Track, same year, 1956, but a different month of the year. It was a full page ad that they ran, and so the buyer wanted that too. This is on its way to Nevada. Just a quick story here, because I like telling stories. Down here, Conshohocken, Pennsylvania is the name of this town. And when I was a teenager, a neighbor had some relatives come to visit from Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. And they were, two of those folks were sisters about my age, and they were pretty, and I wanted to talk to them. And I tried to, but they were real hard to understand because I never had been around anybody with an accent before, and so I could only understand about every third word. They claimed I had an accent, but to this day I still don't believe that. Anyway, this pair of Judson Research ads on the way to Nevada. Next, I'm quickly going to talk about 4 different advertisements that went to the same buyer on that 20% off deal. These went to Colorado, and this first one was the highest priced ad at $10.77. It's the only one that came from the 1940 issue of Model Aircraft News. The other 3 were from the same magazine from the 1949 year. But I'm not going to try to go into detail because there's just too much that's technical about these ads when it talks about the different sizes and types the cubic centimeter displacement, 1/5 horsepower, special, standard, and deluxe, different classes of engines and all of that. That's just way over my head because I ain't educated on that topic. But anyway, $10.77 for this one. This is the second advertisement to that buyer, $8.77. Model Aircraft News, 1949. This is for the Super Cyclone Company Incorporated, and that's also the name of their model airplane engine here. It's Super Cyclone, has been super tested, and it's from Glendale, California. Here's ad number 3 to that Colorado buyer for a company called Forster Brothers, based in Lanark, Illinois. And it shows one of their model airplane engines here. Again, from the magazine Model Aircraft News, 1949. This one fetched $8.77. I just noticed this fourth ad is the same company as the first ad. It's Herkimer, based in the city of the same name in New York. Herkimer Tool and Model Works. And the ad goes into a lot of detail about the types and sizes of the engines that they have available for model aircraft. The first ad ran in 1940. The one we're looking at now is a 1949 ad, and it covers about two-thirds of the magazine page. $8.77, bought this one. This is a great ad of the World War II era, and it's a company called Gates. It's a division of the United States Rubber Company. And in the detail of the ad here, it talks about saving tires for the war effort, how it's important to conserve rubber for war uses. And in the detail down here, it says your store may still have Gates made before Pearl Harbor. If not, ask for U.S. conservation quality rubbers and galoshes made for your wartime protection by the makers of Gates. And it talks about being able to walk rain or shine in your rubber shoes or boots to save rubber for the war effort. This ran in Woman's Home Companion, 1942. $18.77. Sent this to a buyer in New York. This is a nice World War II era advertisement for the Planter Nut and Chocolate Company. And this ran in the Quartermaster Review, 1941. This was picked up by a repeat buyer. But in some detail here, it says that the company has locations in Suffolk, Virginia, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and San Francisco, California. And here they're advertising their Planters salted peanuts in the 1 pound vacuum packed tins. Again, $10.77. Sent this to a repeat customer in Delaware. This advertisement ran in Boating Magazine, 1972, for a company called Cobalt Pleasure Boats of Neodesha, Kansas. And this sold, even though I spelled the town wrong, it should have an E right there. But luckily, somebody is smarter than me was able to find it anyway. This is a 16-foot tri-hull boat that you see in the picture. They also made it in an 18-footer. And there you see a guy in I guess his casual dress out with the girls in bikinis here launching the boat. But $16.77 sent this to a buyer in the city where that company's located, and that person is a repeat buyer. I've had real good success with all of these advertisements from Boating Magazine, 1972. I was just lucky enough to pick up a few issues from that year for a great price, and I've listed them and they've sold well. Next up is this real nice advertisement from 1941. It's for a company called Monroe, and this appeared in Fortune magazine, and it's a full page ad, full color, vivid, neat looking gadget here on the desk. There's a close up of it by the old timey telephone here. The only problem with this ad, it's on its way back home. They got it and decided that it's not an actual adding machine. That's what their message said. They didn't read the listing carefully. They thought they had bought a 1941 adding machine for $18.77, and they asked to return it, so it's on its way back. Now, I covered returns just a few videos ago, and same situation. The buyer just didn't pay attention to what they were doing. I'm not going to hold it against them, so I'm refunding their $18.77, and I'm out the cost of return postage plus the stay flat mailer. I've deducted those expenses and this sale from the total of the earnings for this week. So that's not reflected in the $332.98. But anyway, this is up for sale. If anybody wants a good Monroe ad, here it is. With the Kentucky Derby just a few days away, it makes sense that I sold this advertisement from Classic Magazine 1979. This is Triple Crown in Gold by Gerard, and it's the Don Poland Goldsmith, and it's printed on a centerfold page, but it's also front and back so that it comes out like a folio. At the top here, you can see that this is the Kentucky Derby with 5 different horses shown on 2 different castings. Then down here at the bottom, there's 3 horses in this casting called the Preakness. And then on the next page, you've got 2 horses in the Belmont. And then you've got 3 single thoroughbred race horses shown here. And when you get down to the details, the Kentucky Derby costs $12,500. It's limited to 20 editions. The Preakness limited to 75 for $7,500. Belmont limited to 100. And each of these single horse castings are limited to 150 editions each for $3,000. So that's kind of rich, fun to see, interesting advertisement. And again, $23.77 sent this to a buyer in Missouri. Next is this advertisement for Hammond Organs. This is a company based in Chicago. It says at your local dealer you can see Christmas demonstrations. It's an electric organ that produces exquisite tones. And down at the bottom of the advertisement here, it says that the cost is $1,250. So, being the curious sort that I am, I looked that up and converted or adjusted for inflation $1,250, $1,936. That works out to roughly $28,087 that you could pay in 1936. Basically, the cost today of a mid-sized car, you could have one of these organs in your home. House and Garden Magazine, $18.77 sent this ad to Ohio. Next up, we have a really nice advertisement in full color from Ladies' Home Journal, 1952. This is an advertisement for Youngstown Kitchen Sink and Jet Tower Dishwasher, this company based in Warren, Ohio. Here you can see the appliances there with the sink, and the sink has the garbage disposal here. And then also there's the Jet Tower dishwasher. And remember, after World War II, all of these companies that had been producing war materials, they innovated a great deal. They came up with new products and new ways to use the factory engineering capacity that they had developed during the war. So all kinds of new appliances and modern conveniences were coming out. $18.77 sent this to Massachusetts. Here's a nice advertisement from 1954. It's for a company called Seaberg out of Chicago, Illinois. This appeared in Fortune magazine. The product is a Selectomatic console that plays 45 RPM records, and it says, at the touch of your finger, you can play 200 selections. And here you see the fellow relaxing with his pipe, and he's reaching over, fooling with this gadget. Basically, it's just a different kind of jukebox. It says you can use it in homes or in businesses, and they have a model available with a built-in speaker, a dual coaxial speaker. So $14.77 sent this advertisement to a buyer in Florida. Here's a great advertisement from 1958. This shows a Pan American Airline Boeing 707 jet clipper. In this advertisement, they're bragging about their service to Europe from New York to London, 6.5 magic hours. I love this jet here because I flew on these jets for 6 years during my years in the Air Force, and I'm tempted to just go on and on about them. I'll refrain, but I will tell one story. In 1954, when Boeing was first testing this aircraft and trying to market it for civilian passenger service to the airlines, at an air show in Seattle, Washington, 1954, Boeing had a test pilot named Tex Johnston who flew this airplane over a crowd of 300,000 people and performed not just one, but two barrel rolls. That went down in aviation history. Never happened again with any other passenger airliner. $16.77 sent this to California. Here's a nice advertisement for an International Harvester refrigerator, and it seems like in recent months these International Harvester appliance ads are doing pretty good. I've mentioned them before. This lady here doesn't even have to hang up the phone as she defrosts her refrigerator. This appeared in Ladies Home Journal 1952, and it talks about the ease and convenience of Trimatic defrosting. Simple as ABC. It has automatic defrosting where it does its own thing overnight, and you never have to fool with frost. You can also defrost it by manual control, which is fast electric defrosting any time of day you want it. And then there's conventional defrosting, which I would assume is just where you unplug the thing and let the ice melt from the ice box. Up here in the picture, it's got the freezer ice box there, and it says there's a chill tray under that. But now I remember refrigerators that had a big old pan under the ice box where the water would collect when you defrosted it, and you'd have to empty that water tray. So anyway, real fun and interesting advertisement here. $18.77 sent this to North Dakota. While we're on the topic of refrigerators, we'll go ahead and jump to this one. This ad appeared in Saturday Evening Post 1955. This is a company called Frigidaire. In this advertisement, they've got a nice green refrigerator here. They call this color Sherwood Green. You can also get this refrigerator in Stratford Yellow or Snowy White. But quite a unique layout here. It's got the freezer. It says it's a pull-out drawer on the bottom and flowing cold at the top. And then it's got a picture window moist setup in the door. All kinds of neat design in this. I meant to mention earlier, too, that there's a lot of ladies that like to decorate their kitchen in the mid-century style. And it seems to me like the ones who do make these old refrigerators the centerpiece of their kitchen. They'll find a working old refrigerator and they'll buy it and then just decorate every other thing around it. using the color of the refrigerator for the color scheme of their kitchen. But these are really, really popular and a lot of fun. $14.77 sent this ad to Nebraska. Something else that seems to sell unexpectedly well for me is paint ads. This is an advertisement for Sherwin-Williams Paints. It's a company based in Cleveland, Ohio. It says it's the best house paint. They've got their pitchman here wearing the painter's cap, and it just talks about the colors and the quality of the paint and all of that. This ran in Saturday Evening Post, 1952. $16.77 has this on its way to Arizona. I mentioned earlier the success I've had with ads from Boating Magazine, 1972. This one for a company called Seacraft sold. It has twin outboard engines. You could also get it in a stern drive. The company's based in Princeton, Florida, and $16.77 sent this ad to New Jersey. This is probably my favorite sell of the week. This is an ad for Mercury Outboard Boat Motors, so it's another boating ad. This is not from Boating Magazine. This ran in True Magazine back in 1962. And this image here, just fantastic in my opinion. It shows a couple of outboard motors on this racing boat here. And in the text, it talks about all of the endurance testing that they've done. 1,068 miles at full throttle on the Mississippi Marathon boat race. And down here on the bottom right, it talks about the different horsepower of motors that you can get from this Kickofer Corporation, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin company. But just a neat ad. And $10.77 sent this partial page ad to Utah. I said the last ad might have been my favorite. Also, this one might be my favorite. It's a beautiful, stunning ad from 1941, Fortune magazine. The company is L.C. Smith Typewriters. And here in detail, it's talking about the commissioning of the strongest battleships, USS North Carolina and the USS Washington. They're the only new U.S. battleships commissioned in the last 20 years, and they are equipped with new super speed L.C. Smith typewriters. At the bottom, I think on deck, what it's showing is probably a commissioning ceremony, but here in the quiz, it says, guess how many different types of Navy vessels use typewriters? And there it's got a long list of ships, and I would suppose it's every kind of ship that there is. $18.77 sent this ad back to Wilmington, North Carolina, where the USS North Carolina is on permanent display. So it's going back to its home city. This is one of several ads I've sold for Absorbing Junior. This one ran in Life magazine, 1953. And in the ad, it shows this fella sitting down on the park bench. He says, "Oh, my aching feet." Down in the detail, it says that Absorbing Junior soothes aching feet, provides relief instantly. It helps to cool them. But, not much to it, just a basic ad. And $10.77 sent this to a repeat buyer in California. This last advertisement is from Penthouse Magazine, 1988, and it says England is known for its playboys and its gin. $10.77 was the price that I put on this advertisement. It is a full color ad and it's a full page ad, but it's from a more recent publication with a wide circulation, and so that's why I didn't price it higher. This ad is my only sale through the eBay Global Shipping Program this week. $10.77 sent this to Hong Kong. So that's it for another week of what sold on eBay. And it was a good week. We had great sales. In just a minute, we'll go over the summary screen and we'll wrap up. But first, I want to talk about the bonus topic. I promised you we'd take a look at my SKU system. First, let's briefly touch on what SKU is. It stands for Stock Keeping Unit, and it has nothing to do with the buyer. It has nothing to do with marketing, what the customer sees, or anything like that. This is solely for the seller. It helps you keep track of your stock in an organized way so that when something sells, you can quickly find it and ship it. I don't mean to imply that's all SKUs are good for. Of course, it might be the most important thing is helping you locate stock, but also in eBay, they make it easy for you to use SKUs to help analyze what's going on in your store, what's actually moving, and what you need to be sourcing. There's definitely some great content to be made on the topic of using SKUs for analysis, and we certainly want to get back to that at a future date. But for right now, let's look at how this is put together. To understand how I'm presenting this, I want you to first notice that I've got one SKU in large alphanumerics right in the middle of the screen, and it consists of a year and a title and a sequential issue and a sequential sleeve. Using our example here, let's say that I sold an item with an SKU that began with 1966. I know that the year of that magazine is 1966, and I know what bin the 1966 magazines are in. They may be stored with other magazines from the years 1963 up to 1968, for example. So I'll know that I need to get into that bin. Once I open that bin and go to the 1966 tab, the next thing I'll be concerned with is that middle section, which is the title, and it's alpha sorted. And our example is SEP for Saturday Evening Post. Down the left-hand side of the screen, I've got the list of a partial list of the abbreviations that I use for magazines that I've sourced from. For example, starting at the top, A for Argosy, AF for Air Force, AG for American Girl, going down into the list, G for George, GI for Game Informer, and HB for House Beautiful, and so on. So inside of 1966, I'm going to be looking for the SEP sort. Once I've found the 1966 Saturday Evening Posts, I know that the very first one that I'll see is sequential issue 10. Now, it doesn't matter when in the year it was published, it just matters whether or not it was the very first one that I got to piece out and source from. So the first one would have number 10. In our example, this is the second Saturday Evening Post from 1966 that I worked with. So it's got number 11. The one after it would be number 12, and so on. And finally, that last digit, the orange one, which is 0 in our example, this is the first and only sequential sleeve of that magazine. But I've run across magazines with more than 25 or 30 advertisements that are worth putting up for sale. Every time that I sell a 1966 Saturday Evening Post advertisement out of issue number 11, I don't want to go through 60 ads. Some magazines will yield 60. I've had one magazine that I put 85 listings up for sale out of that one magazine. I broke it up into 3 different SKUs. So starts with 0. If I use a second envelope for that, it would of course be 1, and the third one would be 2, and so on. So if I had a uh, SKU with the last three numbers of 144, then I would know that it's the fifth magazine of that title in that year, and I have five different sleeves of advertisements that I obtained from that one issue. So that's an example of the SKU system that I use. Over on the right side of the screen, I've got a partial list of all of the SKUs that are up in my store. And let's take a quick look at 1964. That first listing, 1964, A is for Argosy. 100 means that's the first magazine of that title in that year that I sourced ads from. 1964 HB for House Beautiful. 100, that's the first magazine of that title in that year. 1964 L for Life magazine. 100, that's the first magazine of that title in that year. 1964 Life 110, that's the second Life magazine title that I had to source ads from in that year. The next one is 1964 LK100. LK stands for Look magazine. That's the only magazine of that title I've had from that year that I sourced ads from. 1964 T for True magazine. 100. That's the only magazine of that title that I had from 1964. So that's just a summary of the SKU system that I use. It works well for me. I've not seen a different SKU system that I think would suit me better, but every store is different, every seller's different. There's probably much better uh, systems that might work for other sellers. And I'm not saying that this is the best one, but this is the one I use. And you may choose to use something similar if you don't have something set up already. But there you have the bonus topic. Now we're going to take a look at that weekly summary screen. All right, here's our wrap up screen. I always look forward to this. It's a good overview of what's going on from week to week. It says on the weekly totals that I sold 25 ads. I'll remind you that only 24 of them stayed sold. The actual gross is $358.25, but I'm refunding $18.77 of that, and I'm paying return shipping, and I use that Stay Flat mailer, so I've deducted about $6.50, and that brings the weekly total to $332.98. I didn't have any advertisements that had a surname match with a company or someone mentioned in an advertisement, but I did have two ads going back to their home cities, including that USS North Carolina battleship that's going to Wilmington, North Carolina, where it's on permanent display. I thought that was neat. The Global Shipping Program International Sale, I had one of those to Hong Kong, and I had three repeat customers. So it was a great week at Blue Feather Ephemera. So excited to be able to do this and to bring it to you so that you can see what's going on in my eBay store. Thank you for watching. Have a great week, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Hey, while you're here, I want to invite you to visit my eBay store, Blue Feather Ephemera. The link is down below in the description of this video. I always say that if a thing was made, sold, collected, celebrated, or built, you can bet it was also advertised. Classic vintage advertising makes great decor for your bar, restaurant, man cave, salon, garage, anywhere the right vibe is essential. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, please hit the like button, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time.